You're listening to the Belmar Bites podcast, brought to you by Belmar Consulting. Hey everybody, welcome back to Belmar Bites. I am excited to have an awesome guest on the pod today, Mike Duerksen, CEO of Buildgood. Mike, thanks for joining us.
Scott, thanks for having me. This is a real honor.
Well, it's a privilege for me. We had the opportunity to meet each other actually for the first time less than a month ago, and it was just kind of one of those conversations where there may be something to a longer term relationship just based on the conversation we had, and I wish every conversation was like that with people that I meet. Not all of them are, unfortunately, but
Sure.
hey, it's cool that we get a chance to connect. So I'd love to just kick it off today with having you introduce yourself, introduce your org. We are really our audience are business leaders, nonprofit leaders, executives, and I really do my best to get people connected in the community. And I'd love for everybody listening just to get a chance to hear a little bit about who you are.
Yeah, so I'm the founder and CEO of Buildgood. We're a nonprofit fundraising growth agency. We work with nonprofits in the US and across Canada, and we really help them grow revenue from new and existing donors with a very sort of focused lens on lifetime value, like increasing the lifetime value of the wonderful people who are your donors, who care about the things that you do in the world. And so we look at first-time giver all the way to legacy leaver, that whole journey from somebody who's making you the first gift to somebody who's actually staking their claim and leaving you a gift as part of their legacy, and really telling you that you matter so much in the world that their legacy will be associated with it.
Yeah, that's cool. So you're the founder. Tell me, how'd you get this idea? What was the aha moment when you decided that this was the path you were going to take?
I was working on the nonprofit side, on the marketing and fundraising side, and we worked with agencies, and we worked with. It always felt like the agency relationship we were a little bit at their mercy when it came to some of the data, some of the strategy, some of the decisions. And it felt like the agency was kind of like, oh, trust us, we know what we're doing. We've got this, and it was like very black box, very we couldn't know some of their proprietary things, especially around the data. And as a fundraiser, I wanted to have a more clear and open and honest relationship with the agency. Very grateful for everything I learned from those agencies. But as my wife and I started a family, and we some kids joined our family through adoption, and I needed to be a lot more present at home. And so I decided to start my own thing to give me a little bit more flexibility around home life. At the same time, do things a little bit differently than what other agencies at the time were doing in market.
Yeah, cool. Well, again, we've only known each other here for a handful of weeks, but just following some of what you're doing on LinkedIn and just reading the content that you're putting out. One, very impressed just in terms of the, to me, the word even professional is just undervaluing what you're doing. It just, I don't know, just something about it hits, I guess, to use a term that my early 20-year-old daughters use, and I may even be dating myself with that term. That might be at this stage of the game even an old one, but I don't know. There's just something that when consuming the content that I've seen on LinkedIn, it's very, very professional, polished brand, and so very cool. In terms of the company, you referenced that you work in Canada and the US. I think what's interesting is for you and I mean, both of us are Canadians, but we operate businesses that service the U.S. and it's very, very important aspect of what we do is understanding sort of that U.S. Canada relationship. So what's unique, I guess, in terms of your business as it pertains to the U.S. side of things?
I think in the U.S. as a whole, and this is not negative or positive, it's just like a net neutral sort of statement. The US is a little bit more entrepreneurial. Things can tend to move a little bit faster, and people are also both donors, but also organizations and clients. That relationship can be a lot more direct sometimes. It can be, whereas in Canada, it's a little bit more polite. It's sometimes a little bit more of a dance, and both of them have their pros and their cons. But that's sort of the cultural difference around those. As it relates to our work, I think what is unique about the way we approach it, and that's certainly the same for Canada and the US, is that we really focus everything around something called self-determination theory. And that's the idea that every human has three core emotional needs. Number one is autonomy. We want to make sure that we want to feel like the decisions that we're making are ours and ours alone. We're in the driver's seat. Number two is competence. So we want to feel like the decisions we're making are competent, they're efficient and effective. And lastly is this feeling of connectedness and relatedness to other people. Even the most individualistic people among us want to be part of a little bit of an in-group. Even if it's like, hey, like I'm like you, you're like me, but we're very different from other people together. So in our work, when we're approaching fundraising, it's all about how can we meet the emotional human needs of autonomy, competence, and relatedness in our messaging, in the way we approach our work. And that goes back to lifetime value. Donors who feel more autonomous in their giving, more competent, and more connected tend to be more loyal donors, make higher gifts, and be essentially more valuable to the organization.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and in asking you that question in terms of what you see in the U.S. versus Canada, I asked that really from the perspective of trying to understand how we as a service-based organization, professional services organization, who face very similar decision-making criteria and process in Canada as you would, sort of how we work to accelerate and unlock that. And from the perspective of the solutions that we bring to the market are very technology focused, but we look at when a customer sort of is ready, well then let's go and let's get that. The faster that we can get a solution correctly implemented,
Right.
the faster that they can receive value. And I've been working in the Canadian market now for 25 plus years, and it's a slow moving. It's I get a sense at times that it's moving in the direction of sort of that faster decision cycle, but it is still Canadians are very Canadian in terms of how they approach that. So
Yeah.
I'm interested, just if there's anything there that sort of you're seeing that can help these organizations in Canada to accelerate.
So I think you're very right. I think the sales cycle is largely a little bit slower in Canada. To a degree, it's almost a little bit more relationship driven than the US. Not that relationships don't matter in the US, but executives in the US, I think, tend to come from a culture of moving fast, but also being like value buyers in that if your solution seems adequate, they're going to give you a go. They will also have no problem, though, terminating the relationship or the agreement if it doesn't work out. So they're moving a lot quicker, both in terms of like getting into a sales cycle and closing, so to speak, but also in terms of like, this isn't working out anymore, we're going to try something different. Where both of those things happen a little bit slower in Canada. Now, the time to value, I think quick time to value is the same in both in US and Canada. It's just the value looks different. In the US, I would say the value is like the quicker we can implement, the better. And in Canada, the time to value is like the quicker you can help with some strategy or some advice or some how do we handle this or how do we internally manage this change or how do we make the case to the board or how do we make the case to leadership. That is maybe a little bit more valued on the Canadian side. And I realize we're speaking in like very broad generalizations here, which can be dangerous.
Of course.
But
Yeah.
but that is that's sort of the way that we're finding it. I don't
Yeah,
know if that
yeah,
tracks with what you're
for sure.
seeing, but yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the value, the sort of the added value that you bring to that conversation, I think is just it's almost a prerequisite to working with many of the Canadian orgs, not that one model is better than the other. It's just it's a different way of engaging,
Yeah.
maybe a good way to describe it is like what we've chosen to do as an organization is we've uh, sort of our account executives, those that are interacting with customers in that sort of pre-implementation cycle, we've split the countries, pardon me. So
Okay.
we have Canadians working with Canadians and Americans working
Right.
with Americans because, and we've tried different models there, and it doesn't always work. Certainly, Americans selling into Canada, but that's neither here nor there, I guess, in terms of sort of the long term arc of the direction that we're going as an org, and where many of our customers are going.
Yeah.
I'd love to just pivot the conversation to talk a little bit more, coming back to founded the organization with this idea that there was a better way. What Talk to me about what you're seeing now that you're sort of, and again, how many years into the org are you?
So I started it in November 2019, and it was officially
Okay.
incorporated January 2020. And I don't know if you remember what happened a few months later, but it
I
was
do.
it was both a great and a not so great time to start a company. I'm grateful for the early clients that really stuck with us. And at the same time, we also lost a bit of opportunity because during COVID, especially Canadian orgs, everybody got really, really cautious at the beginning and pulled back a lot. And that's happening now again with economic uncertainty. Everybody's very cautious in the Canadian market. Nobody's investing a lot in growth at the moment. Everyone's kind of wait and see what's going to happen here on the world stage. So it's been about 6 years, and we've grown every single year, and we've added team members. We've grown a team. We've gotten bigger clients. We're working with some with bigger donor files than we've ever worked with, and seeing great results for clients.
Yeah, that's really cool to hear. So, yeah, starting a organization uh, is difficult the best of times. Certainly, at the start of a pandemic is that much more challenging. But great to hear you've navigated through that. And I mean, I'd love to hear from you, and the those that are listening to this are in the shoes of those that are having to make decisions, make recommendations to their boards. There's an overall slowing. We certainly are seeing that in the U.S. for I think different reasons than we're seeing in Canada. We haven't actually seen it as much in Canada. There seems to be I don't know if resiliency is the right word
Mm,
for it, but there's a certain amount of understanding that we got to keep things moving.
yeah.
So I'm interested in for those that are sort of feeling that pinch right now. What kind of recommendations? What are you advising, I guess, to your clients right now as they are trying to navigate these waters that we're in?
Yeah, so generally speaking, if we've been through this cycle. I've been through this cycle as a fundraiser a few times, right? '08, COVID. Um, what we generally speaking advise, and it's a little bit contextual, but generally speaking, we're really advising don't get out of the market, don't pull back. If anything, now is the time to invest. I'm a big F1 fan, and Ayrton Senna, one of the greatest racing drivers of all time, he was basically saying, on a good day, even if I have the fastest car, I can pass a couple of cars. But when it's raining, everybody else slows down. I don't have to slow down. I just keep driving fast, and I can pass a lot more cars. Now that takes a bit of courage, right? It takes a bit of courage when you feel like it's raining to not slow down as much. But uh, everything is on the other side of consistency over time. And so if you see your sales efforts, your fundraising efforts, your business efforts, your biz dev efforts as compounding over time, even a little bit every day, You just don't want to break that compounding just because things aren't looking good. Um, if you just do like the common thing, and we all know what the common thing is in growing a nonprofit or a business, which is consistent touch points, relationship, being in front of people, adding lots of value, being as helpful as you can consistently. Everything everything that you want, all the success, I think, is at least is what I'm also telling myself, comes on the other side of doing the common thing for an uncommon amount of time and just not stopping and just being consistent, no matter what the forecast is.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, that's so many parallel analogies to what you've described, just that consistency over the long haul. And so, how are you advising, and how are you? Yeah, I guess you're providing a service, and I'm not sure if your service offering, gets into really, that coaching of that leadership team, but whether that's part of the offering or it's just an ancillary that's sort of woven in. Like, how are you helping these organizations to navigate through that? How are how are their boards responding to this? Just like let's keep going. Let's not take our foot off the gas.
Yeah, so any of that leadership coaching kind of stuff is not a core service. It just kind of happens as we work together. But the big thing is to help boards understand that the immediate results are often just not it's kind of a lagging indicator. Like things that you're seeing today is all the effort that you've done in the last 18 to 24 months. And so instead of panicking too much, I guess, when things slow down a little bit, is just what if we focus on the things that are in our control? So what can we do today, right? What are the things that we can do today that in 18 to 24 months is going to make us look like rock stars and like a huge success? And it's going to look like we're an overnight success, but we're not. We just did the common things starting now. So really focusing on what is in my control. And sometimes a helpful thing is to like invert the problem. So, which is like, well, if you didn't want to grow, what would you have to do? Well, we'd probably have to slow down sales. Well, we probably have to slow down our outreach. Well, we probably have to pull back on events. Okay, so if you wanted to grow, you just invert those things, right? That's the inverse of that problem. And so then that gives you a lot of confidence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a very simple framework that, as you articulate that to me, I mean, it just makes me think of things that, I'm going to take out of this conversation and work on, because that's just, when you're in the midst of, the storm, or to use the racing analogy, if we're, in a rainstorm, it's sometimes hard to think, beyond the next month, the next quarter. And, so I love how you've described that. I guess when we think about what's coming next for the org, obviously you've shared that you're growing, and there's, adding headcount, and, your customer base is expanding. How are you caring for that organization in terms of like the like that community? And I know we've talked a little bit about some events that you do, but
Yeah.
talk to me in terms of like, if somebody's interested in learning more, like how can they get engaged?
Yeah, this is a great conversation. This is a great question. How am I caring for the org? So over time, and I'm sure this has been the case for you, Scott. I don't want to assume, but I'm sure you've gone through this journey. And I'm sure a lot of executives listening to this podcast are going through this journey or have gone through it, which is as you add more people, your job changes, and your job changes sort of multiple times over the seasons as you grow. And so I started as a copywriter and like working with our clients very, very one-on-one. I did it all. I was an account manager. Then we hired a couple of people, and I had to learn how to become a manager. And then we hired more people, and I had to learn how to become a leader. And now I'm in a season of like building a leadership team, and I have to learn how to become like the visionary for the organization and actually trust the leadership team to make a lot of the leadership decisions. And so I'm actually discerning right now, like what's next for Buildgood? How do we care for this org? Healthy things grow. Are we healthy? Because sometimes things that grow aren't healthy, and then they're cancer, right? So growth for the sake of growth isn't necessarily the right thing either. So how can we grow in a way that is very healthy, where the organism is growing because it's healthy and it can't help but grow organically in a healthy way? And so I am very much thinking right now in this season of like what's coming up that the team can't see yet, that I should be able to see. What R&D do I need to focus on? Like, how can we disrupt ourselves before somebody else does? So those are all big picture questions that I'm in the middle of asking myself. But caring for the org is really like, how can more and more other people care for the org, and how can I be
Yeah.
in their corner and bring them up and delegate and elevate them?
Yeah. Well, I think to go back to something you said previously, like what you're doing today is really going to manifest itself, or you're going to see the results of that in 12 to 18 months. And I guess from my perspective, I mean, our organization has existed now for 23, 24 years. We've been a Salesforce partner for 15. So we've over our lifetime, we've made a handful of pivots, even within the Salesforce world and ecosystem that we live in today. I mean, I can think of two very distinct pivots that I had to make within the org just to uh, respond to I guess market opportunity, market challenges, but also just in
Hmm.
terms of the composure of our team and our capabilities. And so I think it's to this, you've got to go for it, not always knowing sort of what the final outcome is, but with consistency, it really is just you control what you can control, and you said that earlier, and as long as you're consistent with that, and you pivot, and you make mistakes, and that sort of translates into just even working with our customers.
Hmm.
We see customers wanting to, it's got to be perfect. And yes, we all want perfection, but it's an iterative process within their
Right.
organizations, within ours. And so, yeah, it's a fun journey. It's a stressful journey. It's one that is, you have a lot of people relying on you. And I'm speaking not only for myself and for you, but for our customers. Like, there's a lot of people that
Yeah.
rely on the decisions that we make. So, the making decisions is and making them quickly, I find, is just such a great way to operate. But let's transition into this event conference that you guys host. You were telling me a little bit about this. We may have some people listening to this that would be interested in participating. So tell us about it. When is it, and
Sure.
how do they
Yeah.
learn more?
So the mission of Buildgood is actually to be a teaching hospital. So teaching hospitals do two things. Number one is they take good care of patients, and number two is they teach up and coming doctors on how to do that really well. And so we've structured Buildgood as a teaching hospital, in that our first job is to take real good care of clients and be their growth partner, and provide them with the insights they need, provide them with the services they need to grow. But number two is everything we're learning with clients, because we're so big on testing and optimizing and pushing for growth and new insights. Everything we're learning with our clients, we want to pass that on and teach everything we know, essentially, to pass on to the nonprofit sector, to increase the impact. And also, like, some of those learnings, they just shouldn't be, they should be widely shared. We're all non-competitive. We all want the entire sector to succeed. And so we put on a few different events and a few different ways of teaching. And one of them is the Build Good Summit. It's our way of bringing fundraisers together for 2 days. And it's just like a showcase of what's working in fundraising right now. Our team, but also we invite a lot of other people to be part of this and share their learnings. And so it's real case studies, real numbers, real insights, real failures, real things that have worked. And we do it in Toronto, in downtown Toronto. The next one is May 13th to 14th next year, and brings about 300-400 people together for 2 days.
Yeah, that's awesome. So fundraiser focused, the competitiveness that you spoke to, or the you're not competing with each other. That's an interesting way to think about it. I think we come across organizations, and this is the exception, maybe not the rule,
Mhm.
where there's a competitive nature to the fundraising that they're
Mhm.
doing. Ho Can you just unpack that a little bit more in terms of,
Sure.
sort of bringing these individuals together, and your this teaching hospital analogy, I think, is a really cool one. Like, just help me with that a little bit more in terms of that
Yeah.
competitive side.
So the numbers are pretty clear. So generosity in US and Canada, the generosity that we can measure, so people who are making gifts, is largely declining. We're all relying on fewer donors to do more of the giving. And we've got a new research report now in Canada that shows that generosity is declining, not just in charitable giving. The common assumption was, yeah, like less people are giving money to charity, but they're volunteering more, they're giving more to other ways that aren't easy to track, like peer-to-peer initiatives or giving at the grocery store checkout. They're being generous in many other ways. So, new study in Canada that just came out by Sector 3 that shows actually largely the same people who give money to charities are also the largest driver of people who volunteer and give money in other ways. And that pool of people is shrinking. So if you look at share of GDP of what's charitable giving, that's been stuck. It's been stuck for decades. And we haven't grown share of wallet either. So wouldn't it be better if we all work together to normalize generosity and to make it a good thing across the board? That would be like a rising tide lifts all boats, right? And so that's what I mean when I'm saying we see it as non-competitive. We're here, all of us are here to grow generosity across the board. We will all benefit if that happens.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's a great way to describe it. A great way to think about it. Another gem I'm going to take back from this conversation. So thanks for sharing that, Mike. This has been awesome. I know you're a busy guy, and you've got lots on the go. If people are interested in learning more, obviously they can reach out to me or through our website and connect, and,
Mhm.
and I can get them in contact with you. But what's the best way if somebody just wants to go direct and have a conversation with you?
Yeah, a couple of ways. If they're a podcast listener and if they're a fundraiser, we have the Build Good Fundraising podcast. That's one way where you can learn a little bit more. You can also go to buildgood.com. That's our agency, and buildgoodsummit.com is the summit. Now, if they want to talk to me, I'm easy to find on LinkedIn, Mike Duerksen. Just use the spelling from this episode. You'll find me very active there. Best way is to shoot me a DM.
Yeah, awesome. Well, Mike, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for doing this. I hope we can do this again soon, and we are going to wrap on that. Thank you, and thanks everybody for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Yeah, thanks, Scott.
This has been another episode of Belmar Bites, brought to you by Belmar Consulting. You can follow us on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or on our website at belmarcloud.com.